Well, we could go ahead and get started. I'll give our little spiel. So welcome to the weekly Dharma gathering. My name is Christina. And so tonight's session will be led by Pamela Yetunde, and we will touch on the newly released book, Black and Buddhist, What Buddhism Can Teach Us About Race, Resilience, Transformation, and Freedom. And so she will lead us through a guided meditation, book discussion, and we'll close with a Q&A. And so tonight's session will be recorded. So if you prefer to not be seen, please take off your camera feature. And please note that you will also be recorded when asking a question later on. Feel free to drop in any questions into the chat during the talk at any time, and we'll address it during the Q&A period. And the recording of tonight's gathering can be accessed within 48 hours on your weekly Dharma gathering account. And so with no further ado, I will hand over to you, Ayo.
Thank you, Christina. And I also want to thank Shante, Dr. Shante Paradigm Small for the invitation. I'm glad to be with you all this evening. And I thought that we could start with well, since we're a small group, if it's okay with you all, why don't we start with brief introductions? Your name, where you are, and what you'd like to touch on this evening. Let's do that. Let's start that way.
I'm Brenda Collins from Atlanta, Georgia, and the Atlanta Shambhala Center and the Bumi Sparshna community. And whatever you present, I will listen.
Thank you, Brenda. Would it be helpful if I just call on people? Christina, you want to say something?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Christina. I am just so excited to be here. I'm a young Dharma student, so I'm very in awe right now. And I am so excited to get your perspective on this wonderful book that I got a little while ago, but I haven't yet read. So it's going to be exciting to read it after this discussion.
Thank you, Christina. Yeah. Caitlin.
I'm Caitlin, and I'm in Seattle, and I'm gonna go with what Brenda said. I'm just like, whatever, I'm up for anything that arises.
And I know that about you. I love that about you. Thank you, Caitlin. Amber?
Sorry, I am also cooking dinner at the same time with my earpods, so I'm a little multitasking.
Okay.
I'm in Gainesville, Florida. I lead a queer and trans Dharma group for Gainesville Shambhala here, and just super excited that so many awesome, groundbreaking books or Buddhist books are coming out lately. So just really excited that you've done this, and yeah, excited to read it too. Thanks.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you. Ruth.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm one of the contributors to the book, and I'm excited to just hear Ayo just speak from that perspective and just the joy of holding all of us through this process and being one of the midwifery people to bring it into fruition. So I'm just happy to share in the joy with all of you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Yeah.
Anita.
Hi, my name is Anita, she and her pronouns, and I'm from Edmonton, Canada. And I'm just, my heart and my ears are open, and just to hear your wisdom and learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Alexandra.
Hi, everyone. My name's Alex. I'm here in New York. I'm an academic. I'm also a practicing Alosha. So I think I'm particularly interested in how Black ancestral traditions intersect with Buddhist traditions to the extent that they do, particularly in Black Buddhist practices.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Sheena?
Hi, I'm Sheena. My pronouns are she, her. I am part of the weekly Dharma gathering team, and I am located in Baltimore, Maryland. And I am really just here to learn more about the book. So I'm excited to be with all of you this evening.
Great. Thank you, Sheena.
Thank you.
All right. So I was thinking about how we might engage in some practice together. And the thought arose in me that um, everybody should take care of themselves as best they feel they need to. Um, because our bodies have been so stressed, to keep it brief, stressed. Stressed with just being a human being, the stress that comes with that. It could be stress around not being able to move the way we used to move. I have a passport, but I can't use it right now in the ways I want to. It could be that you've been ill. It could be that you've been preventing illness. It could be that your body is worn down from protests, from witnessing, um, just from holding anger. Just as a confession, that's really what I've been working with for a year. Just anger arising, working with that. So with that, let's take a moment to check in with our bodies, and just for just for today, recall what you did today with your body. From the moment you woke up, do you remember waking up feeling fresh or needing more sleep? Do you remember having dreams or nightmares? Do you wake up hungry or thirsty? Feeling loved or secure or insecure? Did you have breakfast, something to eat? So, what did you choose to eat? Was it nourishing? Or are you intentional about giving your body really what it needs? Or are you more prone to giving it what you like to taste? And then as you went about your day, you know, if you took a shower or a bath or washed in any way, did you rush through your morning routine? Were you able to luxuriate in your self-care and your routine? Were you able to relax throughout the day? Or were you more rushed, having deadlines to meet? Did you spend most of your day listening, talking, or a combination thereof? And who was in your orbit? People with whom you feel ease, stress, or dis-ease? harmony, rancor. Did you eat well for lunch? If you had lunch? Did you hydrate throughout the day? Do you depend on caffeine to get you through the day? Did you get enough sunlight, vitamins, and minerals? And even as you were preparing to participate in our time together this evening, were you able to really put your work down for the day? Or is it still on your mind? Let's just sit for a few minutes to get some clarity on the state of our bodies right now. And then I'll ring the bell to bring this reflection to a close. I hope you've been treating your bodies well. And if you know today was not the day where you treated your body as best as you could have, say, let's spend some time uh, taking good care of ourselves just because we can and because we need to. So if you need to stand, I invite you to stand. If you need to sit, I invite you to sit. If you would prefer to be in walking meditation, which is what I'd like to do, um, be in walking meditation. If you need to stretch, please stretch. Any number of things that you need to do to take care of your body, to tell your body, I love you. Let's do that for the next 10 minutes. And as we do that, I am going to read to you from one of my favorite Dharma books. The old title is Transformation and Healing, Sutra on the Four Establishments of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh. But I think it's been reissued under a new title. And I'm going to read to you section 2, as you take care of your body. And how does a practitioner remain established in the observation of the body in the body? This was written a while ago, so I'm going to say they. They go to the forest, to the foot of a tree, or to an empty room, sits down cross-legged in the lotus position, holds their body straight, and establishes mindfulness in front of them. They breathe in, aware that they are breathing in. They breathe out, aware they are breathing out. When they breathe in a long breath, they know, I am breathing in a long breath. When they breathe out a long breath, they know, I am breathing out a long breath. When they breathe in a short breath, they know, I am breathing in a short breath. When they breathe out a short breath, they know, I am breathing out a short breath. They use the following practice. Breathing in, I am aware of my whole body. Breathing out, I am aware of my whole body. And then breathing in, I calm the activities of my body. Breathing out, I calm the activities of my body. Just as a skilled turner knows when they make a long turn, quote, I am making a long turn, and knows when they are making a short turn, quote, I am making a short turn, so a practitioner, when they breathe in a long breath, knows, I am breathing in a long breath. And when they breathe in a short breath, knows, I am breathing in a short breath. They use the following practice. Breathing in, I am aware of my whole body. Breathing out, I am aware of my whole body. Breathing in, I calm the activities of my body. Breathing out, I calm the activities of my body. This is how a practitioner observes the body in the body. They observe the inside of the body or the outside of the body, or both the inside and the outside of the body. They observe the process of coming to be in the body or the process of dissolution in the body, or both the process of coming to be and the process of dissolution. Or they are mindful of the fact there is a body here until understanding and full awareness come about. They maintain the observation free, not caught up in any worldly consideration. That is how to practice observation of the body in the body. Moreover, when a practitioner walks, they are aware, I am walking. When they are standing, they are aware, I am standing. When they are sitting, they are aware, I am sitting. When they are lying down, they are aware, I am lying down. In whatever position their body happens to be, they are aware of the position of their body. This is how a practitioner observes the body in the body. They observe the inside of the body or the outside of the body, or both the inside of the body and outside of the body. Moreover, when the practitioner is going forward or backward, they apply full awareness to their going forward or backward. When they look in front or look behind, bends down or stands up, they also apply full awareness to what they are doing. They apply full awareness to wearing the robe or carrying the alms bowl. When they eat or drink, chew or savors the food, they apply full awareness to all of this. When passing excrement or urinating, they apply full awareness to this. When they walk, stand, lie down, sit, sleep, or wakes up, speaks or is silent, they shine this awareness on all that is. Further, the practitioner meditates on this very own body from the soles of the feet upwards, and then from the hair on top of the head downwards, a body contained inside the skin and full of all the impurities which belong to the body. Here is the hair of the head, the hairs of the body, the nails, teeth, skin, flesh, bones, bone marrow, kidneys, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, lungs, intestines, bowels, excrement, bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, tears, grease, saliva, mucus, synovic fluid, urine. Imagine a sack which can be opened at both ends, containing a variety of grains: brown rice, wild rice, mung beans, kidney beans, sesame, white rice. When someone with good eyesight opens the bag, they will review it like this. This is brown rice, and so on. This is how the practitioner remains established in the observation of the body in the body. Observation of the body from the inside or from the outside, or from both the inside and from the outside. They remain established in the observation of the process of coming to be in the body or the process of dissolution in the body. Further, in whichever position their body happens to be, the practitioner passes in review the elements which constitute the body. In this body is the earth element, the water element, the fire element, and the air element. Further, the practitioner compares their own body with a corpse, which they imagine they see thrown into a charnel ground, pecked at by crows, eaten by hawks, vultures, and jackals, and infested with maggots and worms. And they observe, this body of mine is of the same nature. It will end up in the same way. There is no way it can avoid that state. This is how the practitioner remains established in the observation of the body in the body. Observation of the body from inside the body or from the outside of the body, or observation of the body from both the inside and the outside. They remain established in the observation of this process of coming to be in the body or the process of dissolution in the body or both. They are mindful of this fact that there is a body here. There is a body here until understanding and full awareness come about. They remain established in the observation, free, not caught up in any worldly consideration. That is how to practice observation of the body in the body. So now let's just take 5 minutes of silence, standing, walking, lying down, sitting, whatever your body needs. Just allow yourself to have that with mindfulness. I'm trying to get the lighting better. Yeah. Anyway, I hope that that 5 minutes or that, just doing whatever you did was nourishing and just reminded you to take really good care of yourself. Um, like I said before, and you already know this, these days our bodies have taken a beating. Some of us have not survived. Hundreds of thousands of us have not survived, and many more will not. So, paying close attention to our bodies is critical right now for our survival, our resilience, our relationships, you name it. And it's good to remember. And one of the reasons why I really love this book is because it reminds me, as I don't know, but it reminds me of the fact that, yeah, this body carries germs. Yeah, it carries viruses. And I have to be careful with my body not to hurt other people. So I was invited, and Cheryl was invited, and I'm sharing regrets on her behalf. She's not feeling well and was not able to join us this evening. But we were invited to join weekly Dharma gathering to talk about the book that we co-edited. And I'm glad Ruth is here because Ruth is a contributor to this book, Black and Buddhist. And so I'll tell you a little bit about how it came to be, and then we can talk about whatever we want to talk about. So Ruth and I were at an event called The Gathering, and it was at Union Theological Seminary in New York City in 2018. I can't remember, Ruth, if we were on the same panel or different panels. In any case, there were panels, and members of New York City were invited to come and interact with us, which was wonderful. And I was approached afterwards and invited to consider writing a book. And the person who invited me to write the book said, and then I read some other things that you wrote, and I was really intrigued by what you wrote in this article, Buddhism in the Age of Black Lives Matters, about collective liberation. So can you write on that? And I said, well, I can write on that. I've already written on it. I can write on it some more. But if collective liberation is what the book is about, wouldn't it be better if we had a collective to write the book? And then the conversation turned to, well, publishers don't really like to publish anthologies because the writing tends not to be even. Sometimes it's difficult to get people to submit their things on time. And I said, yeah, and also a book written by one African-American person can get put in the category of being exceptional, right? So yes, that's one Black person writing about Buddhism. And I said, yeah, but if we're going to show that Buddhism is taking hold in the African-American community, I think it would be best if we took the risk and had an anthology. And so they agreed. And so that's what Black and Buddhist is. It's an anthology which includes African-American Buddhist practitioners across traditions, leaders, I should say, leaders across traditions, including Ruth. And yeah, what can I say? It's been out almost 2 months. And here are two things that I've heard. I have heard Black people say, I really appreciate this book because it's like a reflection on my experience. And that makes me feel really good. I've also heard white people say over and over again, wow, they're so vulnerable. They're so vulnerable in this book. And I said, I know you're right about that, but I think what's remarkable and what that says is that we can be vulnerable in places in writing where it's difficult to be vulnerable in the Sangha, especially in predominantly white sanghas. And so it's like a mirror and a window for folks. And I can read some parts to you, which I'm happy to do. And I'll be brief. And I wonder, Ruth, would you be interested in reading a part from your chapter? No pressure. You're muted.
I don't have it right next to me, but I can get hold of it shortly.
Okay, all right.
Like,
So thank you.
I hadn't thought about that, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't know you would be here. So hey, why not? That's how we're gonna roll. So I think, I didn't write the book. I co-edited the book. And because I didn't write the book, I can brag about it, right? And not be on an ego trip about it. We were very fortunate. We were very fortunate to have these authors contribute these stories. We didn't know. It was just an idea, right? We didn't know if people would even contribute. After we had the conversations with Shambhala, we didn't know if people would actually contribute, but folks did. And so I will read a little bit from Black and Buddhist. I will begin with, and I'll just be sort of random about it, starting with the foreword by Galen Ferguson. Being Black Buddhists, Liberation, Suffering, and Celebration. Let's see. He writes in this section, Freedom Stories. There are moving stories of personal, familial, and communal history in every chapter of this book. Our lives and the lives of those who've been here before us, our mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers, are all threads joined together in one garment, a single destiny. These stories show a unified path joining ordinary, everyday life with transformative spiritual practices, continuing the same personal and collective journeys toward complete liberation that we've been making for centuries. We, as a people, will get there. Cheryl Giles begins her chapter, They Say the People Could Fly, by contemplating American history. Quote, the legacy of Black enslaved bodies is a powerful example of the enduring spirit of resistance and love that serves as a reminder that freedom is possible. Using Virginia Hamilton's version of a Black American folktale of Ibu people flying away to freedom, she encounters the deeper meanings of the symbolic story with the painful yet necessary work of remembering the horrors of our past. Quote, with freedom came the awakening that the end of suffering was possible. Drawing upon the metaphor of flight as a tool for liberation, The People Could Fly and other folktales demonstrate the resilience of slaves in finding freedom and safety for themselves and others. These ancestral stories encode and transmit an indestructible message for us. We can find a better place, a different way of being, way above the plantations, way over the slavery land, say they flew away to freedom. So that's just part of the foreword by Galen Ferguson, who is a teacher in the Shambhala tradition and a professor at Naropa University. I'll just choose something else real quick, right quick. From Sebene Selassie. I met Sebene when Sebene and I were in the Community Dharma Leaders training program that's out of Spirit Rock. And as you may know, she's also the author of a wonderful book, You Belong. I highly recommend it. I read it, sent it to my daughter, said, you've got to read this book. So this is from Sebene's chapter, Turning Toward Myself. Just find it. Toni Morrison's famous statement that racism is a distraction is one I return to often. She's quoting Toni Morrison here. The very serious function of racism is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work. It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being. Somebody says you have no language and you spend 20 years proving that you do. Somebody says your head isn't shaped properly, so you have scientists working on the fact that it is. Somebody says you have no art, so you dredge that up. Somebody says you have no kingdoms, so you dredge that up. None of this is necessary. There will always be one more thing. Then she goes on, I turn towards Buddhism and Blackness at the same time. I am forever grateful for that synchronicity. I read the books of American Zen teacher Charlotte Joko Beck and Vietnamese Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh. I began to sit with the Buddhist community. Rather than run from one sense pleasure to another to try and escape the pain of my life, I began to turn toward myself, to meet the confusion and despair directly. I had to face the grief of not knowing my ancestral culture, see the ways I internalized racism, and choose changing my consciousness. As I began to turn back into my Blackness, it was Buddhism that helped me embrace what I had rejected. I read the work of Black feminists like Toni Morrison, Audre Lorde, Bell Hooks. I devoured This Bridge Called My Back, a collection of essays edited by Cherie Moraga and Gloria Anzaldúa, feminist authors. They helped me see clearly the self-rejection I perpetrated when I reached for white culture. Black music and arts began to fill my ears, eyes, and body with a different consciousness. Having never danced much in my life, for me, movement became one way into what Lord calls the erotic as power. Erotic referring not to the sexual only, but to a life lived through the senses. And then she goes on to quote Audre Lorde. And now I will see, yes, Ruth, are you back? Yes, you are. Can you please pin Ruth, Christina?
Hi.
Hey.
Okay. I want to just add that the folks invited to contribute to this anthology were all participants in that gathering that we had in 2018. So we all share that experience of coming together, exploring what it means to be Black and Buddhist, and tenderizing our heart and just resting in the Dharma as teachers. So it was really profound, and I'm glad it stimulated something that we could actually behold and hold in our hands and have as a sense of shared legacy. One of the things I wrote about, I did a spin off of where's the start of my chapter here? Seems like it went on for a while. Toni Cade Membara's book, her book on the Salt Eater, where she talks about wholeness is no trifling matter. And I was taken by her writing and also how it related to the Four Noble Truths. So the chapter that I'm offering is really unfolding my life in the context of the Four Noble Truths and just the various influences that made those Four Noble Truths come alive. And the piece I'd like to share is part of the fourth noble truth, which is there is a path to freedom. And it's, I'm talking about the Bodhisattva and the 10 perfections. And so I'll read a little bit here. I haven't read this out loud, so this will be a kind of new experience. Within the Buddhist tradition, a bodhisattva is an individual who, through their actions, vows to live in service to the collective for the welfare and awakening of all beings. In other words, to be a bodhisattva means to free ourselves in service to the well-beings of others. The Buddha lived as a bodhisattva countless lifetimes before becoming a Buddha. This path is characterized by cultivating 10 perfections, the paramis. I took bodhisattva vows early on in my Buddhist practice, and as a practice, they continue to serve as a moral compass for daily conduct and service. In this practice, I have come to recognize the sacred geometry of the 10 perfections at play in many spheres, including artistry. For example, I have honored how my mother was a contemporary bodhisattva throughout her life through her artistry as a musician. On the third Friday night of each month, she had hold improvisational jazz sessions. Because she played the piano and the piano is not exactly portable, all of the sessions took place at our house. I remember my excitement while I was peeking out from the bedroom door. The other musicians would pile into our living room with their music instruments, the bass, fiddle, saxophone, trumpets, drums, a full range of Afro and Afro-Cuban percussions. There were singers too. They were business owners, politicians, and working poor, and the unemployed. My mom would often hum a rhythm before expressing it on the piano, and then everyone else would join in when they felt so moved, when they knew they could add value, meaning, interest, and harmony. I'd be amazed at how everything was made more powerful in ensemble. There was a sense of complementarity, not competition, as if they knew they were in co creation and that something subtle and mysterious was unfolding. These folks were playing for each other, and there was deep respect and truth in their and trust in what unfolded. No one contributed just to be heard, but rather to create something more beautiful. The sounds each musician made were like statements and questions, and that the other musicians were affirming and answering, the very meaning of the questions expanding and changing in response. Every musician and singer would be highlighted at a certain time, but not for the solo in the conventional sense. It was more spacious and spontaneous, an inflection, a fragrance, a gradation, unassuming yet distinct. Most of these folks could play music much better than they could speak, and they preferred it that way. No one had sheet music and no one followed a script. The ears and hearts were in charge. It was the listening and the emotion, absence of words or reason, that was on display. No one could make what was happening happen on their own. What they created together could not be repeated, and it wasn't meant to be. It was a gift in the moment, a gift of presence, genuine expression, exchange, and care. The musicians themselves were nourished and fortified, and everyone in their range was touched lovingly. As I reflect on this mysterious and precious transmission through improvisational jazz, I realize that what is ripened in the practice of the 10 perfections is similar to what is ripened in the creation of improvisational jazz. However, I would choose different words to describe it, such as tenderness, empathy, flexibility, curiosity, respect, composure, and harmony. The nature of art in my mind is collective. The discipline of an artist practice concentrates the energy needed to cook an honest and tender response to well being and truth. The Buddha was an artist through storytelling and poetry. Art births us into intimacy with life and offers the perspective for harmony. Through art, we recognize that we are extensions of each other, reflections of the human heart. The late, great American novelist Toni Morrison wrote, I know the world is bruised and bleeding, and though it is important not to ignore its pain, it is also critical to refuse to succumb to its malbalance. Like failure, chaos contains information that can lead to knowledge, even wisdom, like art. And as she wrote in her last book, The Source of Self Regard, art reminds us that we belong here, and if we serve, we last. It's critical to the understanding of what it means to care deeply and to be human completely. So I ask myself daily, as a bodhisattva, how might I see all life as art, as ceremony and service to greater well-being for all without exception?
Thank you, Ruth. So beautiful. So beautiful. So beautiful. So, yeah. Yeah.
And I just want to just say how full the book is of that kind of this kind of nature of heart, this kind of infusion, how the Dharma just seems to, is such a beautiful collection of how the Dharma has just worked our lives and have and enlivened the life that we live. Um, and I just really think it's a precious collection of people really expressing how the Dharma is creatively lived, the flavor, the fragrance. It's so texturized in that way, each of the stories. So I felt so nourished reading and learning from everyone else. And yeah, I just hope it serves near, far, and wide. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ruth. It is in part because of your contribution. It is doing that. And I hadn't heard you read. You hadn't read it before. And so I hadn't heard you read it. And so hearing you read it was a completely different experience than just reading it. Just like hearing Camila Majid, who is one of our contributors, narrate the book via Audible. It's a completely different experience. So yeah, thank you, Ruth. So in the interest of time, let's open it up for comments, questions about anything. And welcome, Anwar. Until you formulate your question, I will say, I don't think it is a coincidence that, as somebody mentioned, there are a lot of books coming out about Buddhism from groups of people who maybe weren't writing in the past so much. And my guess is it has to do with the pressure of being alive these days, and wanting to offer something to help people make it through as best as they can. Folks have been targeted for the past 4+ years. Various groups of people have been targeted. And so, everything from, Sebene's book, which I mentioned before, to, okay, Caitlin, hold on one second. To Larry Ward's book. There are books coming out in the next month, several. So, and then of course, Ruth's book, Mindful of Race, was that 2018, Ruth? 2018. So stuff is coming out, y'all. And we just hope that this is a contribution to this evolving, contextualized, cultured Buddhism that we're seeing. Caitlin, what did you post?
I'm part of a small but growing group that was inspired by this anthology, as well as Transcending Trans Buddhist Voices, pulling together perspectives from disabled Dharma practitioners. So if anyone's interested, I just popped the link in there. Little cheeky like.
I'm so glad. I was hoping that that's what it is. Yeah. Excellent.
And I really appreciate particularly that, like, you're sharing about how you fought to make sure it was an anthology, because I feel like that is so essential because of how generally, like, the experience of any kind of marginalized identity is being treated like a monolith, and how important it is to challenge that idea by having as many different perspectives brought forth as possible. It's like, yeah, it's too complex for just one person. And that's the whole point, you know, to stop making one person be the voice for an entire community.
Right. Oh, okay. Brenda was saying goodbye, and so I didn't get to say goodbye. I'm glad she was here. Exactly, Caitlin. And I think, and I hope that Shambhala will say, you know what, we should do more anthologies in the future, because now we see what can happen with Black and Buddhist. Maybe, yes, Anwar, yes, thank you. Other comments or questions? I would say I didn't. Christina, please.
Sure. So there were two questions that came to mind. My first one was kind of related to something Alex mentioned early in their intro, which is something that I noticed in my like growing, budding Buddhist practice, which is I felt much more connected to my ancestral practices. And so my family's Cuban, and that would be Santeria. And I haven't really been able to delve into all the connections yet, but if there's anything you could share about that. And then the second question is just, I'm curious about thoughts related to navigating Buddhist spaces and navigating sanghas, and like, you know, the ones I've come across are pretty white, and I've had to make that decision, like, I don't want nothing to do with that sangha anymore. And so now I find myself in this space of like trying to navigate and see where I land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll just give you my brief response regarding ancestral and practices and culture and Buddhism. And that is, wisdom comes from many places. Wisdom comes from many places. Practices come from many places. I think that you'll find that many of us, I'm speaking for African American Buddhist practitioners, have not left all of that behind, you know, to embrace Buddhism. And what we have found is there are ways to bring it together, to bring it all together. You know, one of the things about Christianity, or at least the Christianity I grew up in, was that it was so, in retrospect, it was very supremacist. You know, it's like, this is it. There's nothing else, nothing better. And you don't mix anything. Why would you mix perfection with something that's imperfect and actually wrong? So we don't have that. I haven't experienced that kind of supremacist bent in Buddhism, in the Buddhisms that I've been a part of. And the Black folks who I know who practice Buddhism, I've never heard anybody talk about being a Buddhist is a supreme and only way of being. You may hear it in some of the chants, you know, the Dharma is unsurpassable, that kind of thing. But I have not experienced an attitude where Santeria or anything would be excluded. If on the other hand, I would say from Mahayana traditions, everything is included. Everything is included. So just to find those intersections. And I think there was a question before about finding those intersections. I believe, and I just mentioned this briefly in my chapter, that there are shamanic elements in Buddhism. And maybe it even started as a shamanic practice, but it's sort of been, I don't know, whitewashed, for lack of a better term, out of the practices in the West. So that's my thought. Others may have other thoughts and can share those. And then about navigating spaces, Ruth has a lot to say and a lot of experience and wisdom on that. But you do need to navigate and then make your decision. Yeah. Ruth, you have any thoughts? Or anybody else have any thoughts about that question, that conundrum?
I just want to say, having studied Santeria in Cuba, and the way that it totally transformed my heart and view, in terms of seeing life as metaphor, seeing responsibility lived through our lives from ancestors, from Orishas. I just, that was a profound experience for me, and that's so not out of my life as a practitioner in this tradition. If anything, it's been an enrichment and was so useful for me in doing rage work for many years in the Bay Area. Just having that tradition hold me through some of the fire. So I hope it's not left out of the equation as you enter into this space as a budding practitioner. And by the way, we're always budding, so don't expect that to go away. And I think there's just a lot to say about my prayer around us when it comes to navigating space is that we can take ourselves anywhere without collapsing our heart. And when our heart is collapsing, that we back up enough to take care of that, but not back up to stay removed, but back up to know that we belong everywhere. So we need community, we need to be mirrored, we need to hold each other, and we need to claim our spaces and to know we can sit with white folks, any kind of folks, wherever, and work with the contraction that happens in our heart. I feel like that's our work to do. That's the invitation that gets activated around all the craziness that we see in the world. And sometimes we can do that in cross spaces, and sometimes we need to be in spaces with our own people where we feel fully held, but to not restrict ourselves in any way of claiming big spaces in our lives and our view. So that's just a brief thing to say about that. And it is work, you know. Ignorance is a real, you know, there's no ignorance-free zones, right? We have our own, even when we're with our own people, to attend to support, to call each other on lovingly. So this is a life's work and heart work, and necessary.
Yeah, thank you. I know sometimes people, not Christina, not that you said anything to make me think you think this, but sometimes people think if you're Black and you're not Christian or you're not Muslim, then you're going to get into something that is going to undermine your culture. And so I would say that doesn't have to be the case when you practice Buddhism, not at all. There will be teachings that will make you perhaps question how tightly you hold to a particular identity or identities, and whether that holding or clinging becomes a self-limiting sort of thing. Like, for example, oh, because I'm Cuban, I have to do X, Y, Z. Or because I'm Cuban, I can't do X, Y, Z, right? To really examine and ask yourself, are there times perhaps that it would be more beneficial to transcend the ways we cling to particular identities and then just be, and just be. Of course, out in the real world, in the relative world, as we call it, we may not have the luxury to just be transcendent beings. Somebody's going to come up against us and identify us and then treat us in a particular way. Yeah. Anwar, you didn't have a chance to introduce yourself. Do you want to do that before we bring ourselves to a close?
Oh, wow. I'm so used to, it's so nice to sit and listen. So I'm Anwar Uhuru. Thank you for inviting me in this space and giving such a beautiful talk. And I'm just taking so many things in, and I'm just so glad that this space is available because, as already mentioned, when you have a multiple self, it's very hard to find space where you are seen and spoken with and about. So it's just really great. I am budding practitioner of this path as well. I come from the Orisha tradition as well. So it's just inescapable how your systems collide. So it's just great to hear that conversation about none of your practices are left at the door. You bring your whole self in as best as possible. And that's been one of my journeys, is to make sure I don't edit my praxis, but bring the whole thing in, because the breath of Buddhism has calmed me down in the in Orisha spaces too, because those spaces can be exclusive as well. So I say, like to say, just thank you so much. And this has been awesome.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. All right, Christina. Oh, wait a minute. But before that, oh yeah, you got Zenju's books. Yes, it is. She is a beautiful writer, a beautiful person. First of all, beautiful writer, very poetic. Brings it all in. Brings it all in from her. I think it's Haitian roots, African American. And also, you know what? I just want to say this, just say this in closing. Traditions that have altars. Think about that. The altar. Christians have altars. Orisha have altars. Buddhists have altars. And you can place on your altar any object that reflect various parts of yourself, and altar pieces that you want to inspire all parts of yourself. Those altar pieces are not going to look at each other and say, hey, you don't belong on this altar, right? So there's that commonality that we all have. And then you have the freedom to practice as you choose and integrate as you see fit. And it's not always obvious how that integration takes place, but it is taking place. It is taking place. And it only serves to empower you, and I think allow you greater ease in connecting with others when you can integrate all parts of yourself. Back to Ruth's point, wholeness is no trifling matter. Yeah, thank you. Christina?
All right, well, thank you everyone for joining in this evening. I mean, I'm so smiley right now, so thanks to you, Ayo and Ruth, and everyone who shared this evening. And let's see here, next week at the weekly Dharma gathering, it'll be on concurrent healing, healing ourselves, freeing our ancestors with Dr. G. And there's a free 7-day trial on the website, so you could invite other folks to join in, and make sure you're following on IG at Weekly Dharma and on Facebook at Weekly Dharma Gathering. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Hope to see you at the Black Buddhist Summit, February 18th through the 25th. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for doing this. And